Hi, everybody. I'm Camberley Bates. I am the Vice President for practice and practice lead for data infrastructure at an analyst firm called the Futurum Group. And Fred has invited us lovely women here to join in our A3 Communications Roundtable. And we're kind of known a little bit as the super women in Flash. I think that's pretty cool. So let me give you an intro to what we are, or who we are. We're all coming from different companies, clearly, with all the logos that are up here. But the Super Women in Flash was formed by the Flash Memory Summit 8 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. I lose track because of COVID. And it's formed in order to celebrate and encourage more women for entering our industry. You know, we very much so, all of us know how few we actually see of the women in the industry. And after years of what it seemed like about 10% of us were showing up at the shows, we finally saw, okay, let's create some more visibility. And this is a chance that we have, that Fred's gotten involved with us, et cetera, is a chance to introduce you to some of the powerful women that we have and the leadership that we have. So I want to introduce you, first of all, Amy Dalphy, who is a Senior Director of Strategic Planning at Kioxia. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Molly Presley, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Hammerspace, and as well as come from a bunch of other companies. I've known her for many years. Welcome, Molly.
Always good to see you.
Great. And Tara Gordon, who's from Micron, and she's Senior Marketing Communications of Micron's mobile business unit. So it's a real diverse kind of group here. We've got some enterprise, we've got mobile, we've got systems and components kind of expertise on the table here. So what we're going to talk about is the Flash industry and what's going on in the scope of the Flash. So quick introduction, a little background on you guys. I want to go round robin, have each of you tell me or tell the audience here, you know, what's your company's role in the scope of Flash and memory storage? Molly, you want to go first?
Yeah, you bet. So Hammerspace was founded by the same gentleman who founded Fusion.io, who is probably more well-known in this space. So he is one of the heavily patented gentlemen. His name's David Flynn, related to the development of NVMe. He had vision as an architect and as an entrepreneur around how to really make decentralized data, so data sitting at the edge or in a server or in a data center in a cloud, more accessible. And the work of Fusion has just kind of continued on through his other companies into Hammerspace. So a lot of the fundamentals of using the performance and capability of Flash, of course, are built into our technology, as well as some of the software thought leadership that occurred through that time frame. Awesome,
thank you. Tara.
Yeah, so Micron is actually based in Boise, Idaho. Most of our executives and myself were in San Jose, but we have a rich heritage. We've been around for about 45 years. And we're a technology innovator and leader in both the flash memory and DRAM memory components. And we serve a very broad base of customers. So from enterprise to automotive to compute to mobile, which is my team, and even consumer solutions.
And one of the things I remember about Micron is you guys, one of the leaders when IBM came out with their first flash system, was building the flash unit that went into IBM's flash systems, and I think you still are. So, big time in the industry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Amy, all for you.
Thanks. So I'm with Kioxia, and I can get out my grandma brag book and say part of the reason we're all here is in 1987 Kioxia invented NAND. We were called a different name then, but we are still the same people, and we are the folks that decided when power went off, your memory shouldn't go away. And so I think the rest, honestly, is history. And in the storage industry, history is exciting, and the future, I think, is even more exciting. We've stayed as one of the global market leaders throughout that time, with a strong presence in both NAND and SSD. We're based in Japan, but of course our face is everywhere where you would find NAND and SSDs.
Awesome. And I just think it's super great to have the diversity that we have here on the different technology. I mean, often when I've hired junior people coming out of college in my prior company before they were bought by Futurum. We did a lot of that. And we'd get these guys and they say, we're in the data industry, and they'd look at you, really? This is really boring. Until you start to explain to them what you're all about, and they kind of like go, oh, and then they even actually start talking to the guys here, and they go, oh. So it's pretty deep. So this is kind of going into my second question. You kind of answered the first part of the second question, but what is your company doing that's changing in the industry? What's happening you see that's moving it forward? And I'm going to go to you, Tara, first, because we all know what these things are. This is a mobile. Thank you very much. We wouldn't have this. We would not have this without Flash. That is for sure. So it's all yours, Tara.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Kimberly, I think you make a great point. I've been in the semiconductor flash and DRAM industry from the beginning of my career, actually when I was an intern. So it's been many, many years. And I think from a marketing perspective, one of my challenges has always been, why should anyone care about flash memory, right? That's the biggest conundrum I have, because it's not the most, how could I say, interesting product to market. But what we do, and especially at Micron from the mobile perspective, and that's my team, we provide all of the flash memory and DRAM to the world's leading OEMs. So that's who the smartphone makers, as well as the chipset vendors as well. So we supply flash memory and DRAM to the entire mobile ecosystem. And I think that something that's really interesting is, you're holding up your mobile phone, but I don't know about you guys. I also have about 3 or 4 devices on me pretty much at all time, right? So my smartwatch, my tablet, obviously my smartphone, that is like a third arm to me, right? And what's happening, and we're seeing more and more of this, is just the proliferation of data, right? We're constantly collecting and consuming and creating these massive amounts of data sets. And we need a place to store those on our phone. And I say long are gone are the days of saying, you know what, my memory, flash memory is full on my phone, right? That's one of the worst things to have. And now we recently launched our UFS 4.0 solution, which comes in up to 1 terabyte of storage on a phone. Just incredible, right? So that's about 250,000 pictures that you can store on a device. So it's just really incredible to look at how far we've come with technology and innovation, and also from a flash perspective to see, you know what, it really matters, and it affects, it impacts everything that we do in our life, right? When you look at how data is stored and how we depend on fast, reliable, secure, high capacity storage. And especially from a mobile perspective, as you mentioned, there's just so much innovation, and really Micron and flash memory in general is at the core of all the cool devices that we have of making them work. So yeah, it's very exciting. And then as far as what we're experiencing, right? We're seeing, and we'll get into it, so I won't have any spoilers on all of the cool AI stuff, right? But there's so much, when we look at large language models and instantaneous translation and all of the different contextual awareness that we're able to process on the edge of our device, that's all because of flash memory, also DRAM, but flash plays a huge role in that. So very exciting times over here in the mobile world.
It is very exciting. And you know what? I'm going to turn it over to Molly, because a lot of Molly's sitting there smiling because she knows what she's working on, which is how do you get this stuff that's at the edge and all over the place? Because, just like we are hybrid people, well, we're not people hybrid, but we're hybrid working. We're hybrid working now. The data is all over the place, and people that know that data has gravity, and that's causes problems. And I'm turning over to Molly, so I know I'm teeing you up a little bit here for what's your company and how it's changing the industry.
You are, and I'll actually share the other reason I was kind of chuckling is the last times I've been through Boise, I was traveling with my Great Danes between Colorado and Seattle, and we would always drive through Boise, and the Micron campus was the best place to walk them. And I was actually picturing that as I think about the Micron campus in Boise. So great stopping off place for a road trip as well. But I really was tying to what Tara was saying about mobile devices and the use of Flash. There is an interesting analog to what Hammerspace does to the mobile market, and is that idea that when you store data on the different devices that Tara was describing that we all carry with us, whether it's your data, it's your photos, there's some magic that occurred in software in the consumer space that made it possible that you could orchestrate that data between devices. So, you take a picture on your phone and it's synced to your laptop, or you have access to files that you create on your laptop and you want them on your smart device, whatever it is. Hammerspace essentially does the analog to that in the enterprise space, where no matter where you've created your data, at the edge, on a device, at an instrument, in the cloud, wherever that may be, you can access it from anywhere. And you can think about that concept of, imagine if no matter which device or which remote worker or which application wants to use data, is instantly available to them. You don't have to do a big data migration. You don't have to copy it out of another system. You don't have to figure out, how do I move a petabyte over a 10 gig pipe, whatever those things may be. Data orchestration solves that and overcomes those challenges, so you can have access to your data no matter where it was created, from anywhere. And that includes, that at the performance you need, with the durability and reliability you need. So we're kind of that software layer above the infrastructure, which makes it possible to use all that data no matter where it's created.
Yeah, that's great, Molly. And Amy, I know your company, there's lots of changes going on at Kioxia. And I know that there's lots of invention going on, because I've talked to some people on there. So maybe talk about how you're changing things, and especially maybe on the enterprise side. I know you're very involved in that side as well.
That is very true. At the fundamental level, it's really the same game storage technologies have always played. It just gets harder and harder to do, right? More capacity in the same or smaller footprint that draws less power.
So let's ask that question. What makes it hard? Why is it harder and harder to do what you guys are doing? Or am I setting you up for
Well, not to get too far into the weeds, but scaling for anybody, for any technology, the further you go, the tougher it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have, 4 cells or 5 or 8 cells, however many cells you're going to put in there, that the more there are, the easier it is, right? More redundancy, longer life. But as we push that technology further and scale that density, part of how we do that is by taking some of our tricks away. And then we have to compensate for that, like any technology has to do. And that's the part where it gets hard, because the one thing when you store people's data is, surprise, they always want it back, and they want it back exactly the way you gave it to them.
Dang, they're just not forgiving.
Very demanding, our customers. And so that's the challenge, to keep getting more cost effective, more power effective, more performance effective, and in the same space, still provide that enabling technology, because our technology enables everybody else. The reason that Tara can wear a smartwatch is because we've advanced our technology so far. The reason you can watch a movie on your tablet is because we've advanced that technology so far. And the reason your PC or your server is affordable with a huge amount of capacity in it is because of the advances in that technology. So it's just that foundational enabling technology, and then working with, all the customers on all sides, but particularly in enterprise, to get to the other things they need, like next gen interfaces that allow things on their side of the cable to work better and be more efficient, and be faster. But not only are we doing it at the product level, we're also doing it at the manufacturing level, because that is a big part of the secret sauce There's a reason NAND fabs are not a dime a dozen, literally. And that has to do with the level of technology it takes to produce this technology. And then I think another thing we're doing that's kind of, big picture is we're also looking at the environment, because making what we make is impactful, not only to us, but to all of our customers as well. And so not only do we have the challenges of advancing the technology, better, faster, cheaper, more dense, but cleaner. So we have moved forward with our commitments to net zero greenhouse gas by 2050, renewable energy by 2040. And these priorities have elevated amongst our enterprise and data center customers to become a mandate. What was once a nice to have is now a must have. And doing that with the kind of technology we make is much harder than some other technologies based on how the product is made, what chemicals are involved, what processes are involved. So we're pushing the envelope in a new dimension, essentially. And that is really challenging, but also really exciting. And I think a really significant value we add to our customers, because basically, if you look at the scopes of greenhouse gas, we are part of the solution, and they can't get to where they need to be without us. So that's another exciting area. And then, of course, we sent some NAND into space and some SSDs into space. So that was really fun too.
That's fun too. Okay, great. So the next question, I'm going to flip to. So we've had flash and solid state for 10 years, actually, or solid state drives and that kind of thing in our systems. I know it's been longer than that because of the inventions and everything else. Over that course of time, there's some that say that hard drives, those things that go spinning around, for those people that don't know what I'm talking about, are going to go away, or they'll replace hard drives. And so there's a bit of debate there. It kind of goes, I'll tell you where I sit. Long live the mainframe. Okay, so I'm an old person here. I still believe in the mainframe, and I still believe in tape. Not sure I do believe that, how long the HDDs will be there. So anybody want to weigh in on that controversy? Go for it, Amy.
So full disclosure, I spent a big chunk of my career in HDD. That's how I got my start. So it is an interesting question. And sometimes market fluctuations, I think, can cloud the picture. But if we drill down to the fundamentals of the two technologies, I think it gets clearer. So as we look at it today, HDDs and the density of SSDs with NAND underneath it, obviously, they're scaling in terms of capacity growth almost in the same way. So if you plotted out those two lines, they're parallel. And the difference in density is about 5 to 1 in favor of HDDs. So HDDs are, roughly speaking, about 5 times as dense as SSDs. And there's obviously also a significant cost difference between those petabytes, right? Even as SSDs get to greater and greater petabytes, we still aren't on a profitable level able to get to the sort of magic 3x that some people think converts. Now, if we look at different markets, it plays out differently. For all intents and purposes, SSDs have already replaced HDDs in mobile PCs, right? Nobody questions that. Makes sense from a whole bunch of different ways, right? Because of the cloud, which you guys mentioned earlier, you don't need everything on your PC. In fact, you probably don't even want everything on your PC. But when you look at servers and storage, you're looking at a different equation. Where you need a lot of storage, there still really isn't anything as cost effective as nearline in terms of being a big bit bucket.
And that's why we're still seeing the tape, some of the tape still saying there. And the
absolutely.
Still saying there.
Yeah, I mean, you won't see a storage device forecast going out through at least 2030 that doesn't show all the technologies, tape and HDD included. And I think you'd go much further than that. it just comes down to workloads. There's a lot of workloads that Nearline meets the requirements for. But the exciting part, I think, for our industry is a lot of the new things that are coming up have a greater desire for our speed and our efficiency.
Yeah.
And so that I think is also good, but I don't think HDDs go away. Sorry.
Hey, Tara, Molly, want to weigh on this one?
Yeah, I think Amy had some excellent points, and in some, I think it comes down to cost and use case, right? An interesting statistic is that the HDD market, believe it or not, I feel like we feel like it's so ancient, right? But it actually takes up about half of the data storage market, right? I think it's about 55%. So it's HDD is still alive and well. But I think, the use cases, when you look at enterprise or businesses and their need for cold storage, right? They're not trying to access these files often, if ever, but they need to have them. And then the price, from a profitability standpoint, flash is just too expensive, right? So I think there's still a big need for HDD. And yeah, people love to ask this question, right? Because they're saying, oh, flash, it just, no moving parts, and it's just so much quicker and secure and all that good stuff. But there's still, I think, a need for HDD. But I think with all the excitement with flash memory innovation, and we're seeing it in so many devices, there's a great opportunity for more flash in our more innovative and newer types of applications. So I think they both still have a purpose for a while.
Yeah, and FMS has got sections now on Active Archive. And my dear friend Fred Moore is actually showing up at FMS, and he is the man that's all about archive systems. And I know, Molly, you know him and he lives on my backyard. So anyway, any comments, Molly?
The only thing I would add, I'm more in the software space, and so I suspect Amy and Tara are closer to this, but I did found the Active Archive Alliance and care a lot about the concept of these long-term cold tiers. And what we've seemed to have found in our industry is, as much as marketing and innovators like to talk about the newest greatest thing, it takes a long time for customers to move, even if they're highly compelled, and so the sales cycle, the life cycle of products and technologies tend to be 5 or 10 years. And even if Tara and Amy and their peers said it was time to go to all flash, it would take a while to get there, and customers still need to upgrade and add capacity. But I think they have more technical answers than I do in this particular case.
Yes. So I'm going to go on to the next big question, which is all about generative AI, and which is on the top of the news for everybody nowadays, right now. Part of that is because there is a belief that it's going to lift all boats in the technology sector. And as is going to, in my personal feeling, I think generative AI and what it has potential to do with business is as dramatic as when we went to transaction processing in the 70s and 80s. And that, CICS and IMS stuff that IBM implemented on the mainframes can change how we are doing business and how we're interacting with systems. So with that, how does what you guys are working on relate to generative AI and those interesting promises that we're hearing and scary promises that we're hearing out of the industry right now? Terry, you want to start up?
Sure. And this is such a great question. I have to say, this is a topic that, when we're at the water cooler in the office, or we have special meetings dedicated to always looking forward of what's next, right? Especially in the mobile market, our customers have very lofty demands and requirements, because at the end of the day, the end consumer is using these devices, right? And we have to deliver these exceptional user experiences. And just the AI topic is just so fascinating, right? With things like ChatGPT, and then Meta and Qualcomm recently coming out with the Llama 2. We're really seeing tons of opportunity. And at the same time, at Micron, what's really important to us is that we like to say we like to use data for good, right? So there's so many incredible opportunities of, okay, when it comes to generative AI and looking at something like the large language models or the simultaneous translation that I mentioned before, there's so many amazing things that can help people become more efficient and to be able to enjoy their lives, to become more educated, right, with this technology. But we also keep in mind that we have to be safe about it, right? And that's kind of a bigger point too, but I do want to bring that up because that is something that we all need to consider, right? Of kind of having those safeguards around it. But for us at Micron and especially at mobile, I mean, we're really obsessed with the possibilities of AI. And something that we talk about often is, you know, the handset, the mobile phone, we've seen the evolution of the smartphone, right? So we remember T9 texting and, you know, going from the flip, and now there's actually pretty cool flip phones that are out there. And you see even foldable devices where you're able to multitask and access 3 apps at once. I actually have a couple of those foldables at my desk that I play with. So I can be on Spotify, texting a friend, and then, you know, searching for something on Google. But with that innovation, and when we talk about AI, we really see the smartphone as a personal companion, right? So we look at it to say, okay, if we have this proliferation of data and this proliferation of devices, which we talked about, not just on us, right? So I talked about earlier our smartphone, our smartwatch, our tablet. But if you go to your home, I'm sure everyone has, you know, smart home devices, right? That can be from your lights and your thermostat, even to your toothbrush. What all of these have in common? Data, right? And they all have flash memory inside of them. But what we see with AI is all of these different sensors are constantly creating and collecting data. And we really see the smartphone as that main hub where all of that data will be integrated. And from there on the edge, which with these fast, low power DRAM from the memory side, I know we're talking about flash today, but the DRAM is really important, right? To be able to compute and come up with these decisions very quickly. But at the same time, the beautiful thing is by having the compute on the edge on our smartphone, we also need to have the high capacity of flash to be able to quickly access. We all love the cloud, and especially at Micron, right? We are selling memory and storage, so not cloud solutions. But we're seeing on-premise or on-device is so critical to be able to come up with, let's say, you know, you wake up in the morning, your coffee starts because your coffee machine is, you know, a smart device and it knows what time you wake up. And then there's sentiment. So there's a collection and understanding of your mood and your, you know, feelings. So a certain type of relaxing music. That's what I like in the morning, meditation, to start playing. And then my phone knows that I'm headed into the office, but there's an accident on the freeway. So I get an alert that I need to leave early, right? So all of this is the contextual awareness, which placates into the artificial intelligence, right, of what AI is. And it's all going to be, like I said, that personal companion to make our lives easier, more efficient. That's absolutely scratching the surface of what's possible. But we really at Micron look at the data for good, right, to understand, especially when it comes to education, being able to be, you know, that personal companion to help with learning a new language or, you know, any type of disability, right? Being able to help with that. We are seeing so many different avenues and so many different possibilities for AI. And with that, something that's really important to us from the engineering side, yes, I'm in marketing, but I call myself an engineer by osmosis because that's all I'm around all day, right? Which is incredible, is our engineers are working hard, whether in the labs or in our fabs, working on, okay, what are these next generation use cases going to be? And how can we optimize our flash, our DRAM to be able to enhance the end user experiences.
Mhm.
So it's absolutely a really exciting time, and the possibilities are endless. And my last thing on this is flash memory and low power DRAM are critical to be able to process all this information and store it. So a lot of exciting things are happening now and in the future as well.
Yes. You know, a friend of mine who's been building very high performance systems, Frederick Van Haren, who was at Nuance, said to me one time that artificial intelligence is just something we don't understand. And the example that he gave at the time was probably close to 10 years ago was Siri. And that, the concept of speaking to our phone and having our phone, just taking care of the next call, doing the translation of text. You all remember the first, voice automated systems. We were ready to throw the phone at the wall when we tried to call United Airlines and get it to understand us, and how far we have come with that. And he would go through and talk about what it took to train, and that what it really took at the very near, so where we got to that new level of Siri getting trained so quickly on us on a brand new phone. And it didn't take that long for it to figure it out and then to build it. And so that used to be artificial intelligence. It no longer is. It's just part of our life. So that gets back down to that personal kind of environment that we become accepting as well. At the same time, right now, a lot of it is very scary. So, Amy, I'm going to flip it to you. Let's take on the generative AI and you guys and where that plays out. Maybe you're going to be talking about your manufacturing. So I know that's got to be a lot in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree, at the very top level, what Tara said is true. Where there is compute and data, there is storage. So I think we're in strong agreement that AI is going to generate a lot of new data, a lot of new use cases, and a lot of new storage solutions to figure out, how to get the value out of the data. And getting value out of the data, as you mentioned, matters everywhere for sure in a manufacturing environment. There have been lots of experiments. People have shared a limited amount, outside companies, because it is kind of secret sauce, but about how much more efficient you can be, whether you're designing firmware or an etch process or deciding which route your design is going to take. AI gives you the opportunity to do that just at a speed and capability and scenario running, kind of picture that otherwise wouldn't exist. And it will and does move us forward more quickly. I think we all know that every time there's technology innovation, everybody panics. I'm always laughing at the people who say that, kids who game today will become terrible people because they spend all their time in front of the screen, much the same as our parents or my parents said, sitting in front of the television would turn me into an illiterate, drooling, useless non-citizen of the world. And I do think, it's another seismic shift in moving forward, how we use AI and how we learn about it. But I'm very positive and hopeful about how that gets managed, because when you talk to people that this isn't like new or this isn't a transition, this is literally just, they're digital ready, they're AI ready, they're coming out of school and they already know more about it. And they know a lot of the pitfalls, and they know that that's just as big a part of the design, that's just as big a part of the future of it is how do we solve those problems? And I think our industry in particular really has the people to help solve those problems, right? Because we are at the core of that technology. So I'm excited for it. I do think from a, kind of forecasting point of view, we'll see it drive processors first and storage second. That stuff still, as much as how it is, when they call that at Gartner, like the trough of of something or another where it's like
Disillusionment, I think. The trough of disillusionment.
Yeah, after the overhyped expectations. But that's great because we need the time as an industry, as societies to figure this out. But it's just, unendingly good news for the NAND industry.
Absolutely.
Just gonna enjoy the ride.
Great. There was a pipe that was going off in my office here someplace. So sorry about that if that came through. Okay, so I'm going to flip over to Molly. Molly, why don't you kind of weigh in on this AI? I know you've been involved with some of the really some cool technologies coming out in the enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as we watch where it's adopted, there's kind of the marketing saying of people adopt either to save money or to make money. And in a lot of cases, AI and some of these earlier generations, as you were talking about, AI is actually not new. It's just very popular in the news because of ChatGPT right now. But these technologies have been developing for a while. And where we've seen the initial adoption that wasn't quite as exciting and newsworthy to the larger population often was in cost reductions and containing costs, making sure when you're coming out of, I was seeing AI being used in Panasonic's battery factory, probably similar to something Kioxia or somebody might do. I'm just guessing, but looking for bad cells in batteries and using AI to identify those, make sure those don't end out in Teslas. And that would save them money. And at Hammerspace, we have a customer who's using it to make sure that they're using Hammerspace to make sure the appropriate version of data is being loaded into production for making autonomous vehicles. And if there's copies of data in multiple places that you're training on, that can cause problems because you're training with potentially bad data. And so this whole path of moving from identifying problems to training with the correct data, and you mentioned that with Siri, we were training on our voices originally. Now you have to train these large language models with more data and bigger data sets, and you have to make sure you're training them with the correct data. In this autonomous vehicle example, they were trained with the wrong data, and there was a bad outcome by the wrong parts being put into manufacturing. And so I think we're on a path, and a lot of this has been in the consumer space for a while. It's been in the supercomputing space for a little while, and it's just we're continuing to learn how to apply it, not just towards cost savings, but now creating business benefits. And so I think it's fun to watch is where is that next revenue opportunity for an enterprise, or where is that next, business that none of us even can fathom probably yet that's going to come out, and how we'll use it. I think that's the exciting part. So yeah, my company has been a part of that journey. We are training some of the biggest large language models in the world with providing data from many places to these models to train and iterate. But the use cases are just countless, I think. So it's exciting to see. It's going to happen, and it has been happening for a while. So, a balance of fear and excitement, I think I share with everyone else.
So I think the answer to all those people, if we're talking to some of the newbie kids coming up, just hang on tight because we're in for a ride here. So, which is a very exciting ride with our industry. I mean, I say, Kate, storage and data and flash and memory are not boring, right, guys? Surprisingly enough, surprise. So I'm going to wrap it up here, ladies. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And Fred, thank you for hosting this. This is really great to get together with this really very, very smart women here. I want to put a plug in for Flash Memory Summit. It's in August 8th through the 10th down in Santa Clara. We have a wonderful peer exchange at the conference, which is on Wednesday afternoon, 4 to 6. And if, it's a great opportunity to have this kind of conversation. We set up questions, you get on the tables, talk about it, and then move to the next one, speed dating with all the different genders. So it's not just women that's there. In fact, I love it that a lot of the dads show up for this event because they are trying to figure out how do I support my daughters in coming into this industry. So again, thank you very much. Any last words, anybody?
I'll just add, I was talking to our VP of engineering today about the Women in Flash networking event. She's coming and excited to come, but she's an engineer, and she's like, a little bit tentative about coming because she doesn't get out that much. I told her, Claudia, that this is well facilitated and fun, and she's quite enthusiastic to actually get to go out and talk to people, not just write code. So I will just plug that if you're an engineer and you're a little tentative about a networking event, a lot of effort has been put into this to make it very approachable and very fun for everyone.
Make it easy. Make it easy.
Yes.
So great.
And Kimberly, thank you so much for hosting, and Amy and Molly, it was a great conversation.
It's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. Thank
to
you very
meet you.
much. And I agree. The event is really fun and really interesting. All of our folks that attended it last year came back just filled with energy and excitement. Met a lot of great people and as you said, had great conversations. So I definitely encourage it.
Oh, and I forgot to say, Kioxia, Micron, thank you. They're sponsors for the peer exchange event this year. Thank you very much. And Fred, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Great.